Welcome back to A Book a Day podcast. This week we are discussing this book called The Consolations of Philosophy, written by Alain the Botton, and this is going to be the concluding episode where we are going to talk about the consolations for difficulties, for hard times. And the philosopher whose ideas we'll be discussing here was Friedrich Nietzsche, another German philosopher. I won't get into the details of Nietzsche's own life. I'm sure many of you would be familiar. He had a tough life himself. He struggled a lot in terms of his personal life, professionally also. His books also didn't sell at that point that much. And he saw plenty of hardships in his life. And that really gave him a perspective that can still help us even today. And that's what we discover in this chapter, the chapter called Consolation for Difficulties. This is the final chapter of the book, and it's really valuable because this is something that almost everyone goes through. And I shouldn't even say almost everyone does. There are no exceptions in this case. We all face difficult times. We all face hardships. It's unavoidable in this world. And that's what Nietzsche reminds us. He reminds us that all lives are difficult. And this is the idea that pretty much every philosopher has recognized throughout history. A couple of days ago, we discussed Montaigne's writings, and let me read out a few sentences by Montaigne where he talks about our adversities. He says, "We must learn to suffer whatever we cannot avoid. Our life is composed, like the harmony of the world, of discords as well as of different tones, sweet and harsh, sharp and flat, soft and loud. If a musician liked only some of them, what could he sing? He has got to know how to use all of them and blend them together. So too must we with good and ill, which are one substance, which are of one substance with our life." And then, some 300 years later, Nietzsche returned to the similar thought. He said, "If only we were fruitful fields, we would at bottom let nothing perish unused and see in every event, thing and man welcome manure." So that's the idea. We got to be fruitful, and we got to use all these bad things that we consider bad, in a positive way to help us grow, to become fruitful, in his words. But how to get there? Well, first thing he tells us is about acceptance of this fact that we are going to struggle. We are going to have hard times in this world. Especially when we look around today and we see successful people, very often we don't realize the kind of hardships they've gone through. They've been through immense amount of pain. And it's not just that somebody was born a genius and somebody reached somewhere without any effort. That's not how it is. In his words, in Nietzsche's words, he says, "Don't talk about giftedness, inborn talents. One can name all kinds of great men who were not very gifted. They acquired greatness, became geniuses, as we put it, through qualities about whose lack no man aware of them likes to speak. All of them had that diligent seriousness of a craftsman learning first to construct the parts properly before daring to make a great whole. They allowed themselves time for it, because they took more pleasure in making the little secondary things well than in the effect of dazzling whole. So that's the first thing. First of all, we have to remind ourselves that it is going to be a difficult journey, no matter what kind of life you live. And in fact, the more meaning you want in your life, the more the struggles are going to be. So if you're looking for something of real value, real meaning, it's going to be a hard journey. Accept that. Prepare yourself for that. And then he talks about something interesting, really interesting. And the way he uses the metaphors of gardening and horticulture, how we cultivate our gardens. It's beautiful. It's beautiful the way he puts it, and how we can channelize our own emotions, our own fears and troubles to help us grow. He says, one can dispose of one's drives like a gardener, and though few know it, cultivate the shoots of anger, pity, curiosity, vanity as productively and profitably as a beautiful fruit tree. So, we must look at the negative emotions and use them. He says the emotions of hatred, envy, lust for domination are life conditioning emotions, which must fundamentally and essentially be present in the total economy of life. This is something we don't really practice in the modern world, where we want to focus on the positive side of everything, not really paying attention to the negative emotions, probably ignoring them, sometimes suppressing them. But Nietzsche reminds us that if we somehow this cut out this every negative root, it would also mean that we are choking off some of the positive elements that may arise, just like it can happen when you um, put the manure at the base of the plant and it helps the flower grow eventually. So we should not feel embarrassed by our difficulties, but we should only feel bad by our failure to grow anything beautiful from them. Just see those difficult times as an opportunity to grow. That's the idea here. And there's something interesting in this book that I found, where Alain de Botton talks about how Nietzsche was against Christianity, and in some of the ways in which it infantilized its followers, and just by consoling them in a way which didn't help the followers grow, but rather uh, allowed them to find some kind of comfort in their own misery. And that's what something that he didn't like. He wanted to bring you out of the misery. He wanted you to be strong. But somehow he felt that Christianity was doing the opposite. For example, let me read a few lines or verses from the Bible. It says, if one is worried about timidity, then in the New Testament, this line says, if you're worried about timidity, then it says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So according to Nietzsche, this is not a good idea. It's encouraging you to be meek. Then if you're worried about having no friends, once again, New Testament suggests that if you're blessed, when people hate you, when men hate you, they might separate you from their company, they might reproach you, cast your name as evil, but your reward is great in heaven. Similarly, when somebody is concerned about them having no money, once again, you'll find that Bible is consoling them. But that's why it was a big problem for Nietzsche. He felt that they're just trying to cover it up rather than fundamentally addressing the problem. So, how would he have preferred us to approach our setbacks, our own hardships? Clearly, he didn't like the Christian way. So, what was his approach? Well, he would have liked us to continue to believe in what we wish for, even when we do not have it, and may never have it. Instead of suppressing our desires, he wanted us to accept them, embrace those emotions. To put it another way, to make it clearer, he wanted us to resist the temptation to denigrate and declare evil certain goods because they have proved hard to secure. So that's not what he wanted. He wanted us to not give in, keep believing. His idea was that we should not go for these short term solutions which ultimately harm us. We have to confront the problem head on and utilize it to help us grow. Once again, let me read a few lines on this subject, what he wrote. He said, "The worst sickness of men has originated in the way they have combated their sicknesses. What seemed a cure has in the long run produced something worse than what it was supposed to overcome. The means which worked immediately and they were intoxicating, the so-called consolations, were ignorantly supposed to be actual cures. The fact was not noticed that these instantaneous alleviations often had to be paid for with a general and profound worsening of the complaint." What he is trying to say here is that not everything which makes us feel better is good for us. And similarly, not everything which hurts us may be bad. We have to identify and think about these things. So that's what Nietzsche believed in. To just revisit his ideas that we must make use of the pain, of the hardships that we are going through and not ignore those emotions, embrace them and cultivate them to produce something important, something valuable. Facing our fears, facing our insecurities, it requires a lot of courage. And that's what we should aspire for, rather than just alleviating them with some kind of instant gratification. No, we should not go for that. We should understand and completely embrace these difficult emotions. That's the only way we can truly grow and become fruitful as humans. So that's the Nietzschean idea. And with that, our discussion on this book, The Consolations of Philosophy, comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. There were 6 consolations that we discussed, 6 philosophers we discussed along the way: Socrates, Epicurus, Seneca, Montaigne, Schopenhauer, and now Nietzsche. Let me know how you found it, and I just really hope that you found some value in these philosophical meditations, or at least some kind of consolations there. Thank you very much for listening. In the next episode, we will continue reading a new book and exploring its ideas. So, thank you for listening. I'll catch you the next time.